The galaxy was alive with countless voices, yet it had no memory of humanity. Stars burned bright, ships crossed endless distances, and empires traded power like children playing with toys. Among all this, the name of Earth was silent. It was not spoken in songs or recorded in archives. It was as if humans had never existed at all. But once, long ago, Earth had been full of life. Blue oceans, green forests, and skies where children laughed under the sun. Humanity had risen, curious and restless. They built cities, machines, and dreams of reaching the stars. For a short moment in history, their light was strong. Then came the fall. War consumed nations. Hunger grew. The planet could no longer carry the weight of billions. Humanity looked to the stars not with hope but with desperation. They built ships not for exploration but for escape. One by one, those ships lifted from Earth, carrying families, carrying fear, carrying the last fragments of a dying world. And then they were gone. No one knew where they traveled. Some whispered they moved too far, past the edges of known space. Others believed they destroyed themselves in the void. The galaxy carried on, and without a word, without a thought, humanity was forgotten. Centuries passed. Empires grew proud. New species filled the councils and markets of the stars. They traded knowledge, fought wars, made peace, and explored deeper into the unknown. Records of the humans were left behind, buried in dusty archives or erased as unimportant. To most, the idea of Earth was nothing more than a myth told by old scholars who liked strange tales. But humanity was not dead. They had not vanished into nothing. Far from the maps, hidden in silence, they endured. Their ships were fragile, their colonies harsh, but still they survived. On dead rocks, they built shelters from stone and metal. They learned to drink bitter water melted from poisoned ice. They grew food in caves under weak lamps and taught their children to walk in the cold dark instead of soft green fields. They were no longer a people of gentle earth. They became something harder. Children grew with engines above their heads, instead of stars. They learned how to fix machines before they learned how to read. They sang not of oceans but of survival. Yet in the silence of exile they carried one memory, one spark. We came from a world of blue skies. We came from Earth. The galaxy, in its noise and light, did not hear them. No one cared for those who had vanished. No one asked where the humans had gone. Races built their power, made alliances, broke them, fought wars, and signed peace. The absence of humanity was not noticed. It was not even mourned, but for humanity, every day in the silence was a wound. They remembered being ignored. They remembered being abandoned. They remembered the weight of being forgotten. And though their voices were small and their worlds fragile, they whispered to their children, "We will return. One day the stars will know us again." Generations came and went. Faces changed, but the fire stayed. The people who once fled became wanderers who refused to die. They did not ask for help. They did not beg. They endured. And in the far corners of the universe, a forgotten flame kept burning. The galaxy may have erased their name. The galaxy may have forgotten their story. But humanity's story was not over. It was only waiting. Centuries drifted like shadows across the stars. Humanity was still alive, but they were no longer the same people who once walked under the blue sky of Earth. The silence of exile shaped them. It cut them deep, but it also made them strong. Their worlds were not gentle. They were not soft places filled with rivers and trees. Most were cold rocks with thin air, poisoned ground, and skies full of storms. The children of humanity did not grow up chasing butterflies or running in green fields. They grew up learning how to fix air pumps before they broke. They grew up carrying tools heavier than their arms, and they learned how to fight the dark that pressed in from every side. Food was never easy. On some worlds, crops grew only in caves lit by weak lamps. On others, they ate tasteless paste made from strange fungus that survived where nothing else could. Water was often bitter, taken from dirty ice or stolen from vapor. But no matter how hard it was, humanity learned to survive. Each generation passed on the same lesson. We do not die. We endure. Yet in this silence, something precious began to fade. The memory of Earth grew weaker. The stories were told less often. Children asked their elders, "Was Earth real or just a dream?" Some believed it was only a tale to give them hope, a story of oceans and skies they would never see. The stars outside their windows became their only truth. Still in the dark corners of these colonies, a few voices always whispered the same promise. We came from a blue world. One day, we will find it again. One day, the galaxy will remember. Us, the galaxy, however, had no memory left to give. The other races did not speak the word human. Councils of power never once asked, where did they go? To the young empires, humanity was a ghost that never existed. Records had been buried or erased. The silence was complete, but silence has a way of shaping strength. While the galaxy forgot, humanity learned patience. They became skilled in endurance, in waiting, in surviving when no one cared. They became people of iron will, born not from soft soil but from endless struggle. Children were taught that the stars did not care for them, and so they must care for each other. Families lived close, united, because unity was the only shield against the void. They did not have empires or fleets, but they had something older, something deeper. Bond, blood, and fire in their hearts. And this fire, though hidden, never went out. Sometimes, far across the dark, a lone ship would break down. A family would die in silence, never reaching another colony. Sometimes whole settlements would vanish, swallowed by storms or poisoned air. Yet others rose again, stronger. Humanity was beaten again and again, but they never stayed down. Their silence was not weakness. It was waiting. The galaxy looked away, thinking humanity was gone forever. But deep inside their fragile ships and harsh colonies, humans were still whispering. Every mother, every father, every elder told the same story. We were forgotten, but one day we will return. One day the stars will see us again, and when they do, they will not laugh at us. They will not ignore us. They will remember us. Generations grew with this vow buried in their blood. They had nothing to prove to others, yet they carried a promise to themselves. They would not be erased. The silence of centuries was long and cruel. But in that silence, humanity changed. They became a people who could not be broken, no matter how much the universe ignored them. And somewhere, far away from the eyes of the proud empires, a forgotten fire waited to rise again. The silence ended, not with a roar, but with a whisper. It began when one small scout ship, old and broken, slipped into the borders of the known galaxy. Its hull was patched with rust and scars. Its engines coughed and shook, but it still moved forward. Inside, a handful of humans stared at the lights of alien stars, their hearts beating with both fear and hope. For the first time in centuries, humanity had returned to the galaxy. The scout ship did not look impressive. Compared to the sleek vessels of the great empires, it seemed like a relic from another age. Its weapons were weak, its systems slow, and its crew wore suits patched too many times to count. Yet what it carried was more powerful than any weapon. It carried proof that humanity was alive. When the ship entered a trade hub, the alien races looked at it with confusion. Some scanned it, expecting to find debris. Others laughed, thinking it was a broken machine drifting in by mistake. But when the humans stepped out, tired and thin yet standing tall, the galaxy saw something it had not seen in ages. Humans, one alien whispered. The word felt strange in their mouth, like dust shaken off an old book. At first, many thought it was a trick. Some claimed these must be a lost colony of another species. Others said they were scavengers wearing stolen forms. But the truth was undeniable. These were humans, the forgotten species. The galaxy did not welcome them. The great powers of the stars looked at the humans and saw nothing but weakness. Their ship was old. Their tools were crude. Their language was outdated. To the empires, they were nothing more than beggars crawling back into a home that no longer remembered them. No council offered them a seat. No traders offered them fair deals. No empire welcomed them into their worlds. Instead, they were mocked. Some called them ghosts. Others called them relics. A few even suggested they should be erased, completely before they spread like disease. The humans heard every word. They stood silent. But inside their hearts, a storm was growing. The scout ship returned to its hidden colonies carrying more than maps and star charts. It carried shame. It carried anger. It carried the memory of how the galaxy laughed at them, how they were treated as if they were less than dust. The elders of humanity listened. The young clenched their fists. And across their scattered worlds, a vow spread like fire. Never again will we crawl. Never again will we beg. We are human and the stars will remember us. The first return was not a triumph. It was a wound. But wounds have a way of making the spirit harder. Humanity had been ignored once. They had been erased from memory. And now, when they had finally shown themselves, they had been mocked. The galaxy thought this was the end of the story. They thought the humans would disappear again, fading back into silence. But they were wrong. The humans had looked into the eyes of the galaxy and seen only scorn. They had tasted the bitterness of being forgotten, and they swore they would never taste it again. The scout ship had gone out carrying hope. It came back, carrying fury. In the dark corners of their harsh worlds, humanity began to whisper louder. They began to dream bigger. They began to build not for survival this time, but for something greater. The first return had shown them the truth. The galaxy would not give them respect. Respect would have to be taken. And in the hearts of the forgotten species, a new fire was born. The insult of the galaxy did not break humanity. It shaped them. When the scout ship returned to the hidden colonies carrying the memory of mockery and rejection, the people did not bow their heads. They lifted them higher. Every man, woman, and child heard the story of how the galaxy had laughed at them. And with each telling, something inside them began to change. Once they had survived only because they had no choice. They had endured hunger, storms, and endless silence. But now they had a reason greater than survival. They had pride to win back. They had fire to light again. The leaders of scattered colonies met in secret. They came from worlds of ice, worlds of stone, and worlds of endless storms. Some wore patch suits, others carried scars from lives of labor. They were not rulers sitting on golden thrones. They were survivors. But when they gathered, they spoke with one voice. "We are no longer alone," one elder said. "The galaxy has seen us." And they laughed. "They think us weak," another added, "but they do not know what silence has made of us." So the vow was spoken. Humanity would rise again, not as beggars, not as ghosts, but as fire. The change did not come in one day. It came slowly, like sparks turning into flame. At first, colonies began to share knowledge freely. Old grudges, once sharp as knives, were put aside. No longer did one settlement hoard food while another starved. No longer did they hide secrets of engines and medicine from each other. They remembered that they were one people. Then came the building. Ships that once were made only to carry families through the dark were now reforged into something greater. Engines grew stronger. Hulls grew thicker. Weapons, once simple tools for defense, were reshaped into blades of war. Factories lit up across dead moons. Miners dug deeper into poisoned rocks, bringing out metals that were forged into steel brighter than starlight. Children grew up not only learning to survive, but also to fight. They trained in small halls and empty fields, holding weapons that hummed with new power. They were told the same lesson their parents carried in their blood. The galaxy forgot us, but it will remember. For 100 years, humanity prepared. While the empires of the stars argued over trade, borders, and pride, humanity remained silent. They did not speak in the councils of the great powers. They did not boast in the markets of the galaxy. They did not warn anyone of what they were building. They worked in shadows. They built in silence. And slowly their scattered tribes became something more, They became a nation, not bound by one world but by every world that had kept them alive, a people without a single home, but with fire in every heart. The galaxy, busy with its own pride, did not notice. It thought humanity had vanished once more into dust and darkness. To them, the humans were nothing worth remembering. But behind, the silence, a storm was gathering. Young voices spoke with steel in their tone. Elders looked at the stars with fire in their eyes. Fleets of black and silver ships waited hidden beyond the edge of maps. The galaxy believed humanity had been erased. Humanity knew better. Humanity had only been sharpening itself in the dark. The flame that had been carried for centuries was no longer small. It was no longer fragile. It was ready to set the stars alight. The first spark came quietly, almost by accident. On the edge of known space, a small human outpost lived on a barren moon. Its people were miners and farmers, not soldiers. Children played in tunnels lit by dim lamps while parents worked heavy machines that shook the ground. Life was hard, but they were proud, for they had carved survival out of stone. One day, a fleet from a nearby empire arrived. The aliens who commanded it were arrogant, swollen with pride. To them, the human outpost was nothing but a weak settlement with no defenses. They saw easy prey. The invaders landed with banners of conquest. Their soldiers marched through the dusty streets demanding obedience. "You are ours now," their commander said. "You will serve us, or you will be erased." The humans did not answer. They listened in silence, their faces calm, their eyes unblinking. They remembered the laughter of the galaxy. They remembered being treated as less than dust, and they knew, deep in their hearts, that this moment was the one they had been waiting for. The invaders thought the silence was fear. They did not know it was fire. The first human ships rose from the shadow of the moon. They were not fragile scout ships this time. They were vessels forged in silence, sharpened in exile, carrying weapons that glowed like suns. The alien fleet laughed at the sight. Their ships were larger, polished, proud. But their laughter ended in seconds. The first volley of human fire tore through the sky. Blazing energy ripped across the black, breaking shields as if they were glass. One alien cruiser split apart, its pieces falling like dying stars. Another ship turned to flee, but human weapons caught it before it could escape. The battle that should have lasted days ended in minutes. The outpost was safe. Not one human child was taken. Not one family was enslaved. The invaders had been crushed beneath the fire of a people the galaxy thought was gone. Word spread fast. Messengers carried the story to nearby systems. At first, no one believed it. How could humans, those weak, forgotten relics, destroy a fleet so quickly? But soon, more reports came. Wreckage of proud ships floated in the void, blackened with human fire. Survivors whispered in fear of what they had seen. The galaxy began to tremble. The empires gathered in their halls, debating and shouting. Some said it was impossible. Others said it was a trick. But those who had seen it with their own eyes knew the truth. Humanity had returned, and they were no longer crawling in the dark. On their hidden worlds, humans did not celebrate with songs or festivals. They celebrated with silence and steel. For them, the battle was not an ending, but a beginning. The children of Earth had been tested, and they had shown the stars that they would not be broken. The blood of their ancestors, who once cried under skies of war and hunger, now burned like fire in their descendants. The galaxy thought humanity would bow. Instead, humanity rose. And in that rising, a message was carried on every spark of flame, on every piece of burning wreckage. We are not weak. We are not forgotten. We are human, and we have returned. The spark of war had been lit, and no power in the stars could put it out. The spark became a blaze. After the battle at the mining outpost, the galaxy expected humanity to fall silent again. They thought it was luck, a single strike, a moment that would fade. But the humans did not fade. They rose higher, world by world, system by system they began to move. Their fleets, once hidden in shadows, now streaked across the skies like fire. Every ship was born from struggle. Every weapon was carved out of years of pain. And when they entered battle, they fought with a fury no empire had ever seen. The first worlds they struck were not rich or powerful. They were worlds ruled by tyrants. Planets where slaves cried under chains, where voices were silenced, where weak species were crushed under the boots of the strong. Humanity remembered what it felt like to be ignored, to be treated as nothing. And so, they did not conquer these worlds. They freed them. To the slaves, they were saviors. To the empires, they were nightmares. A fleet of humans would arrive in silence, their ships black as stone, their engines burning like stars. The oppressors would laugh, calling them ghosts of a forgotten past. But when the battle began, the laughter ended. Human fire tore through their defenses. Their fleets crumbled, their fortresses burned, and when the dust cleared, the chains were broken. The freed looked upon their rescuers and whispered a name they had never spoken before. Humans. The galaxy was watching now. Some watched with hope, others with fear. But all watched. The great empires, swollen with pride, tried to unite against them. They sent fleets larger than storms, armies heavy as mountains. They spoke with arrogance, claiming they would crush the fire-born wanderers. But in every battle, they were humbled. Humans did not fight for glory. They did not fight for conquest. They fought with something deeper, something older. Survival turned into fury, pain turned into power. Every clash carried a message written in flame. We are back. We are not weak. We will not be forgotten. On one world, human soldiers walked through ruined streets where broken chains lay scattered. An alien elder fell to his knees, tears in his eyes. "Why do you fight for us?" he asked. A human captain answered simply, "Because we know how it feels to be forgotten." The words spread across systems, carried like fire in the wind. Humanity was no longer a ghost. They were a storm. But storms leave fear as well as hope. Many races whispered in terror. They asked, if humans can burn empires, what will stop them from ruling everything? Yet humanity never stayed. They struck, they freed, and they moved on, leaving only ashes of tyranny behind. Still, their growing strength could not be denied. The galaxy's maps, once empty of their name, now glowed with marks of fire where battles had been fought and won. No council could erase them. No ruler could ignore them. Humanity was carving itself back into history with steel and flame. Children across the stars grew up hearing the stories. Some dreamed of joining the humans. Others feared their arrival. But no child in the galaxy was ignorant of their name anymore. Humanity had returned. Not as beggars, not as relics, not as whispers of a forgotten age. They had returned as fire, and the stars themselves bent to their will. The galaxy trembled. But in that trembling, one truth was clear. The forgotten species was forgotten no longer. The wars ended slowly, like a fire burning down to embers. For years, humanity's fleets had moved across the stars, striking against tyrants, breaking chains, and silencing those who mocked them. Everywhere they went, they left behind a memory carved in steel and flame. No empire was the same. No people could say they had not heard the name of humans. At last, the galaxy grew quiet. The empires, once proud and arrogant, had been humbled. They no longer spoke with laughter when the word human was mentioned. Instead, they spoke in whispers, some with respect, some with fear. And in that silence, humanity finally stood in the open. They were not conquerors. They had not built thrones or crowns. They did not demand slaves or riches. Instead, they gathered at the heart of the galaxy, their ships shining like dark suns, and they spoke with one voice. We are humanity. We are the fire of the universe. Forgot. We do not bow. We do not beg. We do not vanish. Remember us. The galaxy listened. For the first time in countless years it listened. Children of alien worlds began to learn the history of Earth. Scholars searched through broken archives, and found the erased stories. They discovered the blue planet, the one with oceans and skies that had given birth to the people of fire. Songs were written of it. Tales spread of a species that had been cast into silence but had returned brighter than stars. No council dared erase their name again. On human colonies there was no cheering, no loud victory. Instead, there was quiet pride. Families gathered around tables of steel, looking into the faces of their children and knowing that their suffering had not been for nothing. The years of hunger, the centuries of silence, the pain of being forgotten, all of it had turned into strength. The galaxy would never forget them again. Yet even in triumph, humans did not lose their humility. They remembered the long exile, the cold caves, the bitter water. They remembered what it felt like to be weak, to be abandoned. And so, unlike the empires they had defeated, they did not rule with cruelty. When they freed slaves, they did not demand tribute. When they broke tyrants, they did not place themselves as new kings. They left each world to choose its own future. That was their victory, not power, but memory, not domination, but respect. One alien elder standing before a group of human soldiers said with tears, "The stars will never forget you." A human answered softly, "That is all we ever wanted." And so it was. The galaxy that once erased them now carried their story like a flame. Every child, whether born under 2 suns or 3 moons, grew up hearing the tale of the forgotten, ones who returned. A tale of a people who endured silence, who rose in fire, and who burned their name back into the sky. For humanity, it was never about vengeance. It was about being remembered. It was about showing the universe that even when ignored, even when broken, even when erased, they could not be destroyed. The fire inside them was eternal. And though the battles ended, though peace returned, the stars themselves seemed brighter with their presence. Humanity walked among the empires, not as shadows, not as ghosts, but as equals. The universe had forgotten them once. It would never forget them again.